All right, Matt the Mortgage Guy here, recording a quick video to talk about what if we don't see a housing market crash in 2021? What if we don't see a housing market crash in 2022? What if we don't see mass foreclosures? What if we don't see enough inventory built by builders? What if we don't see this 20, 30, 40% reduction in home prices that everybody, in all honesty and in my humble opinion, are hoping for, and they're prognosticating, not because they have the data to back it up, but more so because that's what they really want to happen. Of course, if you're a home buyer, you want homes to be cheaper. Of course, if you're an investor, you'd love to get better deals. But the data that I'm seeing, the people that I'm talking to that are talking about things that are really happening and buyer sentiment and supply versus demand, all that stuff, things are not pointing to a housing market crash. And unfortunately, here on YouTube, if you make a market crash, housing crash video, you get hundreds of thousands of views. So what's going on now is kind of like in the media, right? Where if it bleeds, it leads. And if it's doomsday and if it's market crash, it's going to get a lot more headlines, just like the news stories you see aren't going to be about sweet, warm and fuzzy good things, because it just doesn't get as many clicks, doesn't get as many views. And so this video I'm making today is simply to talk about what's your plan B. I think a lot of people need to start to think about that. What if your current plan, which is like, oh, I'm not worried about it, Matt, I'm just going to wait until the housing market crashes, then I'm going to buy when it's cheaper. A lot of people have said that. A lot of people have taken bad advice over the last few years, because when we got into the pandemic, some people were told, sell your house now, rent for a year, then buy next year. How did that work out for you? If you sold in March of 2020 and now the same house is $60,000 more a year later and you're renting, you made a big mistake. And there's plenty of people like that. And here's the thing, you cannot time the market. It's impossible to do so. So that shouldn't ever necessarily be a strategy. But even super conservative folks like Dave Ramsey, I disagree with that guy on just about everything to do with mortgage and real estate. And I shouldn't say everything. I disagree with a lot of stuff he says. Even lately in an interview with somebody who called into a show that said, hey, should I sell now because there's such low inventory and then I can buy later because this person was planning on moving? And Dave Ramsey said, absolutely not. Don't wait. If you want to sell and buy, sell and buy. Don't try to time anything and rent for a few years. And so in this video, more than just my thoughts and whatnot, I'd like to get into some real data. And as I've said in many prior videos, the supply versus demand thing is real. It's not changing. There's nothing that's going to change it anytime soon, and that's going to continue to drive prices higher. When there's 1 million homes for sale, and to have kind of a balanced market, we need 3.7 or more homes for 3.7 million, that is, homes for sale. We're way off balance. And here's the thing. I have said in my optimistic attitude that I would love to see more people list that have waited because they didn't want to have people through their house through the pandemic. Now they've got their shot and they want to list their house. I'd love to see that happen in spring of 2021. I'd love to see home builders build more houses, but the fact remains, and the data shows us, that the builders aren't building fast enough. People aren't listing as much as they should to even get close to satisfying the demand. And my buddy Mike Zuber, check out his channel, One Rental at a Time, had an awesome video this morning talking about what home builders have started to do. Now this is scary. I'm gonna do a 1-minute explanation from what I remember of his video, because it's fascinating, right? We need more supply. We need home builders to build, and help satisfy all this demand that we have from home buyers. And really, 30% of home buyers are first-time home buyers, 34 to 36, somewhere in that age range, and they're buying, tons of homes. They make up a huge part of this demand, right? So D.R. Horton, the largest of all the builders, had a recent development in Texas. And I don't remember where it was in Texas, but instead of build to sell, they're doing like some build to rent initiative where they're going to sell this 124 single family home lot to somebody who's going to turn around and rent it, and they're going to be rentals. And so it's going to be one buyer for 124 homes. And for D.R. Horton, if you think about it from a business perspective, rather than have to pay all these salespeople, have a sales office, do all this stuff. All you do is say, we've got 124 units for sale. Who wants it? And guess what happened? Just like individual buyers bid up, there's all this action and everybody wants it, and so it drives the price up. That's what happened with these institutional investors, is the price got bid up and they sold it for something like 32 million, which was a 50% profit. If they parse it out and sell it to individual home buyers, they're used to making like a 20% return. So they made a bigger return, way less headache. One buyer, not 124 or whatever it was. And so imagine if builders do that. And let's not kid ourselves. Builders would love to build homes and have that sweet and sappy story that they're helping homeowners live the American dream, whatever. But they're businesses, right? 50% return, 20% return. No matter how big the problem is, like, hey, we need you to build for these buyers. We've got all this, demand, and you need to help us with supply. They're selling to whoever's giving them the most money. Let's not kid ourselves that they're just going to do it out of the kindness of their hearts. So you've got that problem going on, this whole supply versus demand. And one thing that gets brought up in almost every market crash video, and gosh, if you're on YouTube for any length of time clicking around, you can find a bazillion market crash videos. Now it's good to think about the what ifs and whatnot, right? But if, deep breath, Matt. If you are somebody on YouTube who only makes market crash videos and that's all you talk about, broaden your channel, brother. Anyhow, enough on that. Forbearance is something that gets pointed to a lot. And, there's 2.5 million people, roughly, still in forbearance. And I understand that we keep kicking the can down the road. Eventually, something's going to happen. But here's the thing. I've been watching this because Mortgage Bankers Association, the MBA, comes out with a weekly report. And just in March, you can see from their weekly report, it's like 5.2%, 5.14%, 5.06%, 4.95%. And that was March 29th, where now it's less than 5% of homeowners are in forbearance. And more than that, what I like to look at, because I know from my seat where I get to talk to people every single day, and trust me, this is another form of stimulus. I talk to people every single day, and I talk to tons of people who hold mortgages. They call me about this subject because I'm a mortgage broker, and they tell me, Matt, I didn't know if my husband was going to keep his job. I didn't know if I was going to be able to work full-time or it's going to be part-time because I'm taking care of the kids doing homeschool and Zoom and whatnot. So we entered forbearance, which they can. Everybody can. You can click a friggin' button and enter forbearance. So what happens if you miss 12 months of mortgage payments and your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month? That's a $24,000 stimulus. They're making it so easy on the back end as well, where you just tack it onto the back. There's no added interest. There's no any of that. And so why not take it? People are padding their savings account. They're paying off high interest debt. They're doing whatever they want with that money, but it's another form of stimulus. So you've got trillions and trillions and trillions of government stimulus. You've got these, probably is going to add up to billions of dollars of, stimulus through this forbearance program. But I am telling you, from somebody who talks to hundreds of these folks, that the vast majority of them are not in a position where once they exit forbearance, it's all over. They're going to exit forbearance, and just like the numbers show for the people that have exited over these last 9 months, every week I look at this report, it's the same. 27% of the people that are in forbearance are still making their payments. They're not even skipping them. They're just in forbearance just in case, and then payment, and then, maybe they're thinking to themselves, if I get in trouble, I'll stop making payments. Since they are in forbearance, they can do that, but they'll make them while they're in forbearance. My thought would be, like, if you've got high interest debt or something else to use that money for, why not, right? 26% of the people are some sort of loan deferral, right? Where the stuff's getting placed to the back. 15% of the people who have exited forbearance are reinstatements where they're paying their past due amount. And so that's 41% of the people that are exiting are either throwing it on the back or paying it and good. And those are the people I talk to, I think, that really didn't need it. And so it's like, okay, we're done. let's figure out what the best option is. 14% of the people that have left forbearance in the last 9 months exited without a plan in place. And that to me is just the people that I talked to that accidentally clicked or told me I didn't even realize I was in forbearance and my bank did this or this. And that's a big portion of that 27% they're still making payments. They probably don't know they're in forbearance. When I log on to pay my mortgage, almost every single time, instead of clicking on my address, click on another bar that's highlighted, and then it says, it's taking me to the forbearance page to click and take forbearance. 5% of the people are entering some sort of loan modification. 7% are paying it off through a refi or selling their home. And I've heard people say that part of this demographic that's selling is because they're in distress. You're full of it. The 7% of people that are leaving forbearance and refinancing or selling, they're coming out of forbearance because they see low interest rates. They're like, I want to refinance. And then they're talking to a mortgage broker like me. Trust me, I talk to them. Or they're selling and their plan was to sell because they're going to sell and buy. And so they're not exiting forbearance and then selling because they have to. They're exiting forbearance because they chose to sell. That's a big difference. Anyhow, people can twist things however they want. Like, oh my gosh, all these people are selling because they're distressed. And no, they're not. If they were distressed, they would stay in forbearance. They wouldn't sell. And then there's repayment plans, short sales, deed and liens that make up like 1.7%. And I rounded some of those numbers, so it might add up to 99% or whatever it is. But that is data that shows you people are leaving forbearance and they're not having trouble. And tons of people have left. We've only got 2.5 million left. Like, where are all these foreclosures coming from? Especially knowing what I know about how people are like, yeah, I took it. Yeah, I extended. I could. Why not? I'm using that money. Added savings, other investments. We live in a Robin Hood generation, right? People are taking stimulus. They're taking this forbearance. They're taking it all and they're plugging it into Robin Hood and they're day traders. That's a whole nother problem, right? But what I see from where I'm sitting is not anything that's going to cause this humongous market crash. And this isn't even taking into account the demand, not just for 2021, but 22 and 23. And I've talked about this in other videos. This huge segment of buyers that are buying their first home between 34 and 36 years old, if you look at the birth rates, 88, 89, and 90, for those 34 through 36 over these next 3 years, it goes up like a staircase. More and more of those 34s to 36 are entering the market, adding on to this huge amount of demand. I just don't see a housing market crash. I don't see it this year. I don't see it next year. And here's what I do see. If we reach a point where home prices continue to appreciate and affordability becomes an issue, then we flatten out. We don't fall off a cliff. Falling off a cliff would be some huge event that none of us are seeing that causes a drastic downturn in the real estate market. And so that's going to take an event, right? The current things we have right now, none of them are events. Mortgage rates went up 0.5%, not even a blip. Home prices continue to just go absolutely insane. We're printing money like we never have before. Everybody's fat and rich off of stimulus. And so things are going to get more expensive as you pump trillions and trillions of dollars into the economy. Things aren't going to get cheaper. So my 2 cents, take it for what you will. Any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. Matt, M-A-T-T, at Matt the Mortgage Guy. Thanks for watching. Hope this finds you well. Bye-bye.